Welcome to Rich Cat Ranch. Follow along with me today. I'm going to cook another batch of homemade food for our German Shepherd dogs, and I thought I would show you the process once more. I'm using turkey in this mix. I didn't use any ground turkey in the last mix, and it is important to kind of mix up the proteins and vary those from batch to batch. Same thing with the vegetables. So this will be a slightly different recipe than I showed you last time, but wanted to walk you through the process again. If you're interested in cooking for your dogs, comment and let me know how I can help. Let's get started. All right, it is another homemade dog food cooking day today. So I wanted to show you guys, I always watch for my specialty meats to be marked down. If I'm not ready to cook them right away, I bring them home, put them right in the freezer, and then just let them sit in the refrigerator for a day before I'm going to do any cooking. So I found several packages of the ground lamb at Walmart marked down. So that's a good deal. I am going to use some bison again. This batch will have ground turkey in it. This is just the extra lean ground turkey from Costco. And then we'll have some ground beef. I'm not going to use that whole package, but I bought the big package. I'll divide it up into smaller portions, flatten it, put it in Ziploc bags and freeze it so that it's super easy to cook it when we're going to have it for human food. And then I'm going to put a ½ pound of beef liver in this batch. I typically do put liver in batches. My last batch did not have liver, but the dogs were getting the freeze-dried liver with their meals every day. But this time I'm going to include liver in the mix. I'll use, I've got 20 eggs on this flat here, and the last 2 from the carton that we've been using to give them their raw eggs at night. So there will be 22 eggs in this batch. We're going to go with oatmeal again, and salmon. I'll use a little ground turmeric like I like to use, my ground eggshell powder. The vegetable this time will be zucchini, and I am going to put a little bit of garlic in mine. I know there's some controversy about that. I don't use it in every batch, but it does have benefits for dogs, and our dogs are very tolerant of it, so I'm going to put a little garlic in this batch as well. And then I've got my big crock pot and my medium-sized crock pot, so I'll make a little bit more than I made last time. That last batch lasted just under 3 weeks. I like to cook batches before I run out, but ran out of time this time, so we're completely out of homemade dog food. So they may just have to get just some salmon and an egg and cottage cheese and things mixed in with some kibble for today, and then this will be ready to serve starting tomorrow. So I'm going to wash these egg shells before I crack them so that I can use the shells to make some more ground calcium powder. And as before, I will be updating the video as I get deeper into the process and just walk you through it again. So just a tip for if for some reason you're not aware of this, when I buy the big packages of hamburger meat, I divvy them up into portions that are for single meals for us. And if you'll flatten it out, put it in a Ziploc bag, that'll cook really fast because it's a nice thin layer. So even if you take it out of the freezer when you are ready to use it, you can pop it into the pan frozen and it's going to cook up pretty quickly. So I just wanted to share that for you. This is going to go into the freezer for use with upcoming meals for the humans in the family. But I've got the lamb, bison, beef, and turkey cooking here in my big electric skillet. I'm going to chop up the beef liver. I like to let it sit out and thaw just a little bit, but it's super easy to cut it if it's not quite all the way thawed, and it'll just go into the crock pots. So my mix is going to be about 2/3 of the batch is going to be in the big crock pot, and then 1/3 in the medium-sized crock pot. So that's where we are right now. The zucchini is going to go right into the crock pot also, because that'll stew for 6 to 8 hours so that the cell walls of these spirals will be completely broken down, and I can, easily mash it. It's got to be that way for the dogs to absorb the nutrients when they eat it. They have very short digestive tracts. Dogs have very short digestive tracts, so anything that passes through has to be as broken down as possible, almost pre-chewed. Otherwise, it just goes right through them. There's no time. The digestive tract is not long enough for the food to sit long enough for nutrients to be absorbed. So you have to cook your vegetables till they're just mush. Anyway, that's where we are now. I'll be chopping this up and getting things added to my crock pots next. And I'll be back when I'm ready for that part. Alright, so I've got in my crock pots the zucchini, the salmon, the oats, some turmeric, and a little bit of garlic. I'm going to get my eggs washed and cracked and beaten and add those as well. Another thing to keep in mind is that any grains, oats, rice, quinoa, whatever you're using in your recipe, those also have to be completely cooked before you feed them to your dog. I used 3 of the 6-ounce cans of salmon, so there's 2 cans in the big crock pot and 1 can here in the medium-sized crock pot. I've got about 2 cups of oats in the medium crock pot here and about 3.5 cups in the big crock pot. Alright, so again, next step, we get my eggs washed, put those in there, get my liver chopped up, put it in there, and we'll keep moving along. Oh, I forgot. So I also found, when I found the lamb on sale, found some chicken gizzards on sale. So those are going to go into this mix too. I'll get these thawed and chop them up as well, and they will go right into the crock pots along with the liver. So just another option. You just need to be sure you're offering multiple animal proteins in every batch, and try to rotate those out. So again, this one has turkey in it, just to have a little bit of a different option. But didn't want to forget that I got these chicken gizzards. Alright, if you missed it in the last video, I'm just going to go over washing the eggs. I just use dish soap and a sponge that's dedicated specifically to washing my eggs. The temperature of the water needs to be, I use just above body temperature, so probably, between 100 and 110 degrees. And so, again, we're going to be just scrubbing the debris off of these eggs. Most of the eggs come out pretty clean. I do try to keep the bedding clean, but they sometimes lay in muddy spots or near where they've spilled a bunch of water in the pen overnight. And that means that any dirt or bedding that was there gets wet and it can stick to the egg. I'm just going to scrub. The CDC recommends you don't wash eggs until just before you're going to use them. So again, these are getting scrubbed and cracked right away. And then my shells are allowed to dry, because once they're dry, I'm going to bake them and pulverize them to make my eggshell powder. So now that I've cracked that into the bowl, I'm going to rinse out the inside of the egg, leaving the membrane intact. You can just kind of feel when it's not slippery anymore. You've rinsed it out sufficiently. And then they just dry here on the paper towels. Okay, I just wanted to go over that again with you in case this is the first time you're watching a dog food cooking video with me. Right, so I've got 14 of the 22 eggs that are going to go into the big crock pot. Roughly, again, 2/3 into the big crock pot and the other third into the medium crock pot. I just like to get them lightly beaten so they're a little bit easier to get mixed in. Oops. Little tipping there. Oops, I'm going to take my lid off. And we're going to stir those around. Wash and crack the other 8 eggs to put in the other crock pot. There is water here too, so that the oats rather can cook. The vegetables are the part that has to cook longest. So that's why I go ahead and get my crock pot started, even though the meat's not done. The meat I only cook to between 50 and 75% done, because it's going to cook in the crock pot then for several hours before it's ready to serve. Okay, so that's just where we are in the process. I'm going to do that with the rest of the eggs in the other crock pot, and I'll be back as I'm making more progress. All right, so I've got my liver chopped. Just a little over 5 ounces will go into the big crock pot, and then just under 4 ounces will go into the medium crock pot. So getting that added now. The eggs are in. So everything is in the crock pots now. I'm going to get the, well, no it's not, because I'm going to get the liver chopped, and then I'll get my gizzards chopped, and last the meat will go in. Okay, so the meat is done. I still have a little bit of pink here. One of the reasons I cook it to 75% is I just want to be able to drain off as much grease as I can. So I've already poured the grease off, lifted up the pan and poured the grease off, but I'm going to spoon it out now with this strainer so I can get more grease. This pan is heavy. And I kind of just divvied this up into 2/3 and 1/3 to put into my crock pots. And I'm just breaking up the chunks a little bit more. I know the dogs don't mind the chunks, but I want it to be distributed evenly throughout the batch. So I'm going to get it divvied up and put in the crock pots, and then it's just a waiting game to let everything stew for another six hours or so that the vegetables are broken down, the oats are completely cooked, the liver and gizzards are nice and done. And then we cool it, portion it out, and put most of it in the freezer, just leaving out a couple of days worth in the refrigerator to feed to the dogs over the next couple of days. So that's where we are. Again, I'll be back when I've got it all together, mixed and stewing, and then we'll finish up again with the packaging before it goes into the freezer. All right, everything is together now. And now it's just going to stew for the rest of the day. Obviously this is not quite a double batch, but I only have the one great big crock pot, so but this should be almost a month worth of food here. So it's on high. We're gonna now, oops, I'm gonna go ahead and set it for 6 hours again, and I'll come in periodically, stir it, check it, make sure nothing's sticking. But this is just a variation of my recipe. My goal is always a 75% animal protein. and combination 25% grains and non-starchy vegetables, with 5 to 10% organ meat. And I usually use the beef liver just because it's easy to work with, it's inexpensive, and the dogs like it. My eggshells are drying. This is the grease I drained off. So those were low-fat meats. The beef I bought was 88% lean, and the turkey was like a 93% lean, but I still drained an awful lot of grease off of it, and that's why I brown it first in the crock pot, just so, I mean, in the electric skillet, so I can drain as much grease off as possible. They don't need all that, just like we don't need all of that. Some fat is good, and you don't want to, cause problems for the dog by eliminating all fats. Again, just like us. But that's where we are. I'll be back with the last parts once it's done, and that's it for now. All right, it's ready. It's super hot, so it's going to have to cool now for probably a couple of hours before I can get it into the containers for the freezer. I think it smells great. The zucchini is nice and mushy. There's still some, strings of it left in here, but it's nice and soft, and it's going to continue to cook even just sitting here uncovered while it's cooling, just because these are so hot. So those went for a total of about 7.5 hours, just under 8 hours. So it cooked for 6 hours after I put the meat in it, and it had already been going for a little while before the meat went in. So the next step will just be to get it in the containers to put in the freezer. But there's another batch of dog food. Give you guys some inspiration and guidance there. Be sure and comment if you have some questions or need additional information on something. Again, I don't give specific recipes. I'll let you know exactly what I used in this batch, but you just have to be really careful that you tailor what you make to your particular dog. But I'm happy to share information and help you get started if this is something you'd like to do in your home. All right, I'll be back when it's time to get it into containers. Okay, so I am getting this portioned out. To put in the freezer. Since they get cottage cheese or yogurt on top of their food, I always have these containers around. So this part's only exciting because I know it means that they'll be eating it with their next meal. I fill these as full as I can get them, knowing that there might be some expansion as the freezing process occurs. But I've already got one. I've got that medium crock pot already packaged up, and working on the big one now. So this is a day's work for sure. I started this around 11 o'clock this morning, and by the time I got everything cooked and put together and chopped and then stewed, it has been cooling now for a couple of hours. And that's just because it's literally too hot for me to handle those containers when I put the food in it if I don't let it cool. So thanks for watching again. I'll have some details in the description for the video, and again, I just invite you to comment if you've got questions or need a little help to get started. Thanks for watching our video, and we'll see you next time.